It's a total misuse of the department's resources. The resources of the Department of Justice are meant to keep us safe, to uphold our laws, and to uphold our civil rights. And they are being used right now to defeat those very interests, which is very concerning. What's happening with the leadership of the department is the shots are really being called in the White House. The New York Times article you referenced reported that Stephen Miller, who is not even an attorney, is actually the person who is making all of the decisions that are then being pushed down to the Department of Justice. So that is not how things have ever operated in our history. And it's on issues that are big and important, but it's also on minutia. And if I could just share a quick anecdote.
Yeah.
When I was at the department before I was fired, we were getting bombarded daily with these orders from the Attorney General. Pam Bondi is signing memos to the workforce that are giving us our marching orders, telling us, you are all the president's lawyers, carry out his mission. And it got down so far into the minutia that we got a memo to the 115,000 employees of the department saying the Department of Justice is abolishing paper straws because the president doesn't like paper straws. So it is our obligation as attorneys in the Department of Justice to eradicate the scourge of paper straws and replace them with plastic. I mean,
Liz,
it's Looney Tunes.
There are real things happening in this country, serious things that people are dealing with. Yeah. It doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on politically. And so, I'm gobsmacked that the people who are who spend their lives thinking about the rule of law, defending and protecting the rule of law, the Constitution, are being asked to do things just because, Donald Trump doesn't want to do them. I guess I probably shouldn't be as shocked as I am because of where we are politically. But I guess, what? I'm just like, I just can't believe. So how is
Usually I'm the one.
I know.
I can't talk.
What is the mood inside DOJ as these things have happened?
Well, a lot of people took advantage of the second DOJ buyout offer recently because they declined the first one. They saw how things were going. And after seeing it for a couple of months, they said, oh, no, this is not for me. So people have fled the department.
Brain drain.
Yeah. I mean, lots of incredibly smart, talented lawyers who have spent years or even decades at the department have left because the morale is low and people feel like they do not have the freedom to share their views, and they feel like they're not supported in their mission, and they feel like they're being asked to do things that are not appropriate.
And that's got to be part of the plan as well, right? To get rid of all of the experts so that there's no accountability within the department. So I was in the public integrity section. At the end of the Biden administration, there were 30 lawyers. Now there are 4.
Paul, looking forward, what are you really watching about Trump's DOJ and the cases that are coming up at the Supreme Court?
So, Elise, the Trump administration is coming really close to openly defying judges who tell them to do things that they don't want to do. And they're openly disrespectful, maybe because they think ultimately they'll get a friendlier reception in the Supreme Court. Or maybe they just don't care what judges tell them. They're going to do what they want them to do. So I'm really curious about what's going to happen in this case with Mr. Abrego Garcia. Again, the administration is refusing to answer basic questions like, where is Mr. Abrego Garcia right now? What are you doing to try to bring him back to the United States? And what's the deal with El Salvador, where they're holding people who the United States is sending? They're saying we can't answer that because it's state secret. It's hard to say something's a secret if the president is blabbing about it on Fox News and on Truth Social every single day. And so ultimately, it's the Supreme Court who will decide. Again, we've seen different perspectives, you could say, from the Supreme Court. They've really empowered a lot of this lawlessness from the administration with their immunity decision last year. Now they finally seem to be onto Trump's game. But what that means at the end of the day, we don't know.
And that is the factor, that immunity decision that hangs over all of this. We've got less than a minute left, Liz, and of course I'm going to ask you a complicated question. But to Paul's point about the Trump administration defying court orders, seemingly not to care, what recourse do we have as the American people to hold the president accountable if he's not going to listen to the lower courts? And we have yet to see, and he's still sort of openly defying the Supreme Court in facilitating the return of Abrego Garcia. who's gonna hold him to account and make sure that he does follow through?
Well, I actually think it's going to be the Supreme Court. What was so striking about this most recent order of the Supreme Court is that it was a 7-2 decision, and all three justices that were appointed by Donald Trump during his first term as president were in the majority. So there are 7 justices on what is overall a very conservative court that are saying that they're going to hold this president to account. And that, for me, is a real reason for optimism.
You know what? That actually makes me feel better.
It is hard to make him feel better about that. I will say so. Good job, Liz.
Liz Oyer, Paul Butler, thank you both very much for coming to the weekend. Coming up, what to make of President Trump's upcoming phone call with Vladimir Putin and his attempt to broker peace.